We are Fandom Roulette.
Two nerds with a passion for
History,
video games,
tabletop games,
and, well, really any nerdy stuff that comes into our lives.
While we might not be able to name every ship classification in Star Wars,
Or every Pokemon.
or every spell in the player's handbook,
Well, one of us can.
we're still here to have a good time. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And on Fandom Roulette, this is a podcast where we talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including such things as history, video games, tabletop role-playing games, and whatever other nerdy stuff we want to talk about on the podcast. So anyway, Cody, my friend, what have you been up to? What nerdy stuff have you been up to since last we chatted?
Oh boy, a lot of stuff since we're doing this bi-weekly now. And because we had a weird schedule, because technically it's been, I think, 3 weeks since we've recorded, if memory serves.
No, wait.
Yeah, because
whatever. We're not going to take people behind the veil.
Normally we do, but today we're not. So it's been a while since we've talked last.
Wow.
I can't do it again. I can't make the joke again.
It's
been too
podcast. It's been a while. All right. Well, anyway,
so
cut this all out because it's good.
This
too
is
good.
all.
No, because I don't want to get fucking taken down copyright lawsuit for my pitch perfect that guy from that band.
Is that Creed? I forget.
Don't betray us, Cody. I don't actually know. But anyway.
It's actually Stained.
Yeah. So what have you been up to? I keep interrupting your thoughts and your talking.
No worries. We did some D&D.
That is true.
It was fun. I unlocked a title in Destiny. I got the season title.
Ooh.
So there's like seasons in Destiny 2, kind of like Fortnite, where it's got like a battle pass and like you level up the battle pass and there's like seasons where like things kind of shift and change and whatever. Okay. So there was a title at the end of this, which was basically do all of these things in this season, and you had to do it before the season was over. And the season ends in like a couple weeks now, and I finally got the title, and I'm really excited about that. And then Pokemon came out, and I've been really excited and been playing that. Yeah. And
are you gonna catch them all?
I am going to try. I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
I have notoriously not caught them all, but I've had a lot of fun with the games. And then I've been playing.
Even catch them all anymore. that was me.
Oh no!
Do you like that? You like that hashtag commentary?
Yeah, that fucking commentary. And then I've been playing a lot of Death Stranding because that game's really long, and I've been enjoying myself. I've been getting a lot of cool upgrades that have like completely changed the game since I started. Like it's all. I would argue it's almost a completely different game at this point.
Is the Death Stranding still?
It's still very much Death and Stranding.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's delivering on both the promises of the title.
Yeah, the title is definitely very promising and
Death?
in the forefront of this video game.
Death and also Stranding. Don't forget the Stranding.
Yeah.
Don't forget the Stranding, I think.
Yeah, most people remember the Death. Death's pretty easy, but Stranding? Sometimes it can be rough.
Oh my god, do you remember the fucking... oh my god, what was the name of that game? The one where you played as Raiden.
Metal Gear Rising?
Yeah, Metal Gear Rising. I so distinctly remember it had the greatest video game trailer ever. Because it was like, it was like action stuff, and then it was just like, you cut metal. And it like shows cutting metal, and it's like, you cut this, and it's like, you cut anything. And then it cuts to him cutting like with precision accuracy, cutting up a watermelon. And I was like, that's the weirdest thing to showcase in a video game trailer. Who is this guy?
Dude, I don't know if Kojima might have been a big part of that. I'm not sure, but it totally, like, to me, screams Hideo Kojima. Just like, you can do all this weird shit, and then it's like, including cutting watermelons.
Yeah, like, but anyway,
but yeah, that's been I've a lot of video game stuff these couple of weeks. What about you?
Oh man, I've been diving deep into Disney Plus in like every conceivable way.
Oh, not me too, but I also have watched my first thing on Disney Plus.
Yeah, what was your first thing? It's important.
I watched the first episode of Mandalorian.
Yeah, what did you think of said first episode of Mandalorian?
It was interesting. I don't know if that was a good first episode.
Interesting. Did you watch the second episode?
No, not yet. I only had time to watch the first one. I think my only complaint, and this isn't usually a complaint, usually it's the other way around. I literally know as much about Mandalorian from the trailers that I did after watching the first episode. I know nothing.
Yeah.
I literally know nothing. And
interesting.
It's weird because, like, the Star Wars geek in me is like, oh, there's all this cool stuff happening. You got to see a fucking IG... I guess this is spoilers for Mandalorian, but if you've seen...
spoilers, episode 1, man. You guys see a fucking IG unit go nuts?
Yeah, like, that was fucking cool. Like, there's some really cool scenes in it, but, like, fuck all, man. I learned nothing. Like, I'm not really big in my Mandalorian lore, so... I don't really know, like, I kind of get that there's this very, like, almost, like, ritualistic society between them, and, like,
yeah,
there's something definitely going on there that kind of screams, like, I don't know, Amazonian a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's something that they keep kind of going back and forth with the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Which is, like, sometimes it's presented as, like a race in Star Wars, right? Like you are born a Mandalorian,
right?
You will die a Mandalorian. But also sometimes it's presented as like a religious unit, if that makes sense. Like it's more like a culture and a religion, but like sometimes it's a race, and so I guess like what it's implying is that there are still like Mandalorians, like ethnic Mandalorians out there, but to preserve their like culture and their society, you can become a foundling, which is like you've proven yourself to the Mandalorians, and they like sort of like teach you the ways of the Mandalorian, even though, like, you know, genetically speaking, you're not like from the Mandalorian race. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's putting it into perspective, like the first episode didn't.
Sure, yeah, and like this is something that like I fucking watched Star Wars Rebels, which is a great show on Disney Plus. You should watch it.
Okay.
Fucking giving free advertising to the world's biggest media company's private streaming service. But anyway, yeah, you know,
it's not to say that Mandalorian was bad. It was super cool visually. It's very exciting, and I want to know more, which I believe is like what you're supposed to do. But I guess I'm just so used to like exposition heavy first episodes, or like either you go the route of like exposition heavy where you have to like, all right, let me set up the whole scene. You got to listen to all this before you can do anything, kind of a deal.
Hi, my name is Mandalorian,
and I'm here to tell you about my religion, Mandalorian, and I need you to sit down for 30 minutes while I explain it to you.
My name is Mandalorian. I'm a Mandalorian. I know, it's confusing.
I'm a Mandalorian, but hold on, I'm also playing the mandolin.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some like next level shit.
And I'm slicing vegetables thin on my mandolin.
Ooh, yes.
And it's okay.
This is not a good bit.
No, it's fine. It was good, actually. I liked it. I will say this, oh man, this could be considered a controversial opinion.
Hit me with that.
Okay. I think that it's going for a similar tone to Rogue One, and I think it's doing it more successfully than Rogue One did.
You know, saying that, I'm inclined to believe you a little bit. There was definitely a Rogue One was a little grittier, and definitely more, to me anyways, a little more impactful than some of the other movies. And yeah, I feel like that's the Mandalorian is very moody.
Yeah, it's very moody.
And
like,
it doesn't hold your hand with telling you stuff right away. And that's fine, because it wants to show you the world and it wants to show you the life of a Mandalorian, which from this first episode seems like, at least where this takes place, which I imagine is in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens.
Yeah, it's post-Empire.
Yeah, it's post-Return of the Jedi.
Yes, post-Return of the Jedi.
And because of that, like, things are different in the galaxy.
Sure.
And there's
a power
like
vacuum now.
Yeah, there's a power vacuum, and it's definitely it's doing this weird thing where you almost kind of feel bad for the people that are just kind of on the sidelines, who had to basically watch, this empire form up, kind of take control of the galaxy, and then crumble beneath itself, and watch what happens, because it's a little grim for the Mandalorian. At least it implies that times are tough for a bounty hunter, especially a good bounty hunter.
Sure.
So I'm excited to see more of it. I think it's going to be for people who haven't seen it, it's going to be a weird watch if you're used to quote unquote regular television.
Sure.
Because most of the time they want you to understand what's going on and then put you in the show, but this just put you in the show.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. It seems to be taking a lot of cues in a good way from like the old school like Clint Eastwood westerns, where like they're just very long shots of like a dude saying nothing and like walking or riding moodily. And it's like,
yeah, or just like people saying like very short words and then just looking at each other, and then things just get fucking real quick.
That's true.
It definitely has some Western vibes Western movie vibes that I'm digging on.
It was also pretty fucking rad to see that like laser forge. That was pretty cool.
Yes, that was pretty rad. But anyways,
shall we jump into?
Well,
content?
I haven't even asked you what you watched on Disney Plus.
Oh, it was The Mandalorian.
Oh,
yeah, it was the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
Got it. Okay. But
yeah.
Then yes, then we can jump into the history section.
Oh, I have a question for you, actually.
Yes.
This might make it appealing for you to watch episode 2 of The Mandalorian, which I know you will eventually. But like, if you haven't had the time for it yet, cool. Did you ever play Super Star Wars as a kid?
Yes, but I didn't get very far, and I wasn't very good at it.
I feel like the people who made Super Star Wars, or who made The Mandalorian, played Super Star Wars as a kid, because one of the action set pieces of the second episode, minor spoilers, is that he has to crawl up a sandcrawler, which was the second level of Super Star Wars.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
It was pretty fucking cool. But anyway, into the content. Hi guys, welcome back to the history section this week, or this season. Yep, this week we're continuing the season that was established last week, which is about Greek mythology. So last week we talked a little bit about the creation mythos of the Greek universe and how it kind of established this idea of the world literally coming forth out of chaos, which is kind of at its core like what the Greek mythology's whole deal is kind of reinforcing this idea that the world is a chaotic place, and that the closer you are to Greece, the more stable and the more secure the world becomes, thanks in part to the Greek gods, no matter how fucked up they might be. So we're going to ask a question this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. The question is, why do the gods exist? So it's like a pretty big question, and I'm going to put a disclaimer right here at the top of the little history section. This is not being said or discussed to sound perhaps like, atheistic or things like that. But if we look at world cultures, and most every culture, we find throughout like a religious belief system in one way or the other. And mainly they involve things like stories and explanations about how and why the world works. It's people trying to make sense of the world that they exist in. And I mean, it makes sense that these stories exist, right? Because like the world is a very unpredictable, confusing, and dangerous place in a lot of ways. And it's kind of confusing, like why, right? Like you have something like weather. Weather is something that is very fickle and very unable to accurately predict. Even today in 2019, we can only get somewhat accurate forecasts of what the weather will do, because if even one little thing goes wrong one way or the other, what could have been a nice, beautiful blue sky day could turn into a thunderstorm, within hours of when that prediction was made. Same thing with natural disasters. We have better ideas about why they exist or what causes them or things like that. But at the end of the day, there is no proper or accurate way to predict when something horrible or devastating might happen. And so there's a certain degree of logic to dictate or a certain degree of that makes sense, that there are beings that control these systems because they act in ways that are unpredictable and not necessarily able for us to view and observe and things like that. And so, like things like natural disasters might be caused by an angry deity or by a monster or something like that. And then, of course, over time, there's other aspects that kind of come through with religions and mythologies, which is the moralizing aspect of it, which is that these things that control our world, our systems, our weather patterns, and things like that, if they establish rules, then you should probably follow said rules, because if you do something bad, like let's say something bad happened to you, like you had a bad harvest, it's possible that you broke a rule that these deities came forth with, and it might not impact you, it might impact your neighbors as well. And so, it's to suggest that to a certain degree these like systems or these belief systems exist because it's people trying to make sense of a world it's incredibly difficult to understand. Now, each god, and this is God with a small g, controlled their own domain in Greek mythology. A lot of them had multiple things, but it showcases things that the Greek world valued, which was sometimes physical, sometimes idealistic, and sometimes a combination of the two. So there are a lot of gods in Greek mythology, and if I were to go through every single one of them, we would probably be here for a very, very long time. So I'm just going to go through the Olympians in this one. So the Olympians are the set of 12 gods, which are like the rulers of the rest of the gods. In a lot of cases, the smaller other gods are the children of someone who was one of the Olympians. And this is actually kind of interesting too. There are 12 Olympians, sometimes 13 Olympians, but there are 12 Olympians, and 12 is a big number in Greek mythology. Much like in like Christian mythology, you see a lot of 7s and a lot of 3s. There are a lot of pairings of 12s in Greek mythology. But if you hear someone refer to, like when talking about Greek mythology, if they refer to the 12 Olympians or the 12, there's a good chance that they're talking about these ruling classes and or these ruling gods. And we're going to stop and talk about some of them as we're going through. Some of them are a little bit more straightforward than others, but there are some that I want to stop about and talk a little bit. So we have Zeus, who is the king of the gods. He is the god of the skies, weather, lightning, law, order, and justice. This one makes, there's a certain thing where it makes sense that Zeus is also the god of the laws, considering that in a lot of Greeks, at least early Greek societies, they were monarchical societies, and so yeah, the king's in charge of the laws. Now, of course, over time, Greece becomes more democratic, but still, Zeus is going to be the one in charge of this. He also has his lightning bolts that he throws down on Earth, suggesting that he has this power of dangerous storms and things like that. Now, Hera is his main wife. Zeus has a lot of wives, but Hera is the main one. She is the goddess of marriage, women, childbirth, and family. Poseidon is the god of the sea, who controls waters, storms, hurricanes, earthquakes, and horses. That last one might strike some people as odd, but there were, in Greek mythos, the horse was considered incredibly important. In a lot of these cases, Poseidon is in charge of transportation and ways of transportation. In fact, he is considered one of the most important, considering that there were a lot of Greeks who were seafaring people who would go far and abroad on boat, and so there's actually quite a lot of respect paid to Poseidon and his domain because you had to travel the seas. This next one's kind of interesting. It's Demeter, who is the goddess of the harvest, fertility, agriculture, nature, and the seasons. Are you familiar with the story of Demeter, Cody?
I am not, actually.
So Demeter is the mother of Persephone, who becomes the bride of Hades. And so the story goes that Persephone was like sitting in a field one day, and Hades kind of pops up. He goes like, "Zoink, you're mine," and he like takes her down to the underworld. Just like that. In the original Greek, he said, "Zoink, you're mine."
Damn, Shaggy's a dick.
Oh shit! I would watch that.
Yeah, it's like, "Zoinks, you're mine."
Zoinks! Oh, Scoob! Oh my god! Oh, Cerberus with 3 voices. Okay, anyway. And so basically, Demeter gets very upset at this. She goes to Zeus. She says, "Hey, tell Hades to give me my kid back." And so Zeus is like, "Hey, Hades, give Persephone back to Demeter." And then Demeter gets so upset that she turns the world into a horrible, cold, barren wasteland. Nothing can grow for, months and months and months. And so Hades finally agrees to it and says, all right, she can go out, but if she eats any food in the underworld, she has to return here. And so she eats a couple of pomegranate seeds. And so the deal ends up being that she has to spend 6 months in the underworld and 6 months in with her mother. Now, Cody, does that strike you as kind of interesting? Huh?
That someone got to eat some seeds and now they have kind of weird stepdad mom situation.
She has to stay in the underworld for 6 months, and when she's away from her mother, it's very hard to grow things during that time of year.
The seasons of the year. Yeah,
so the Greek story of the seasons is that this goddess loses her child, and when her child is away from her, she becomes so distraught that she, basically gets rid of the harvest and agriculture and things like that.
Fucking rude.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff, right? So you have Athena. She's the goddess of wisdom, like handcrafts, so things like sewing, weaving, needlework and things like that. We're going to talk about her in a couple of weeks. And then this is interesting. She's the goddess of warfare, but intellectual warfare. So
and then Kratos is just the god of war.
Actually, there's no Kratos. I'm sorry.
Damn it.
But there is another god of war. We'll talk about him in a minute. So she represents things like the generals and planning and strategy and things like that. Now, the next two are the twins. We have Apollo and Athena. Apollo is the god of, there's a lot of them, so get ready. Light, the sun, prophecy, philosophy, truth, inspiration, poetry, music, arts, medicine, healing, and plague. That last one's kind of interesting, huh?
Wait, what the fuck?
Yeah,
what?
So... oh, God.
What the fuck's going on with the last one? It's like all these good things, and then death.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once again, like, these gods are flawed and they're fickle, and they can become incredibly impulsive and incredibly destructive, just as they can be beneficial to the people who worship them and things like that. Apollo is considered like one of the most respected gods. He's depicted quite a lot because there are so many things, and a lot of the Greek people really connected and associated with Apollo because he represented things, all of really the good things that Greeks gave to the world. His sister is Artemis, who is the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, virginity, the moon, archery, protection, and also plague.
Damn.
Yeah, Artemis is kind of interesting, where she most of her stories involve her running around with a band of nymphs and hunting and just like turning her back on any male suitor that comes her way. And depending on the story too, she can sometimes be a little bit jealous of her brother. We have Ares, who is the god of war, violence, bloodshed, and manly virtues, which is great.
Ares!
I hated saying it. Yeah, Ares. Now Ares is the god of like the bad part. Well, I mean, it's all bad, but he's the god of like the dumb, bad, impulsive wars. Also, one of my favorite little aspects about Ares, and this is I feel kind of interesting as well, is that Ares is actually incredibly weak. There's a great little okay, I'm gonna put I'll put a little asterisk here. We're gonna go down to the footnotes. Oh, hey, look, it's us down here in the footnotes. What's up, guys? This is once again like the stories that we have of gods and goddesses and mythology come from multiple sources, multiple people, multiple things, and much like writing about other things, sometimes they will put in their own aspects, their own personalities, and their own biases into the stories that they're telling. But during the Iliad, the story of the Trojan War, Ares gets hit by like a sword or an arrow, and it's like basically a little nick, and he cries so loud and for so long that he stops the Trojan War for 2 full days, and Zeus has to like send down his little like manservants to pull Ares back up to Olympus because he gets hit once and he just starts crying and wailing and gnashing his teeth because at the end of the day he's really not that strong. He puts up a big show, he talks a big game, but yeah, it's not that much. The next one is Hephaestus. Hephaestus is the master. He's the craftsman of the gods. He's actually the god who forges Zeus's thunderbolts that he throws at people. He's
cool.
Also, yeah, I know, right? He's also the god of craftsmen, invention, fire, and volcanoes. Here's another fun little fact for you. The Romans basically just took the Greek gods and gave them Latin names. And Hephaestus in Latin is named Vulcan. And that is where we get the term volcano and also volcanology, which is the study of volcanoes. Because they were the realm of Hephaestus. And so, yeah, in this case, like, he's the one. It would make sense that, perhaps if you saw a volcano explosion or a volcano eruption, it might look like the big bellows of, a workspace for a god, right? Like this gigantic mountain that's literally spewing forth like hot ash and fire and things like that would probably be reminiscent of like a forge, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, like you're just like in a giant's fucking forge at the top of a mountain. Yeah, I get it.
And so like a lot of these, like, it makes sense like why they exist, especially the more physical ones. And then the other ones, like one of the stories about Apollo is he kind of gives these gifts to humanity. He's so excited about them that he wants others to share in them with him. Okay, and then a couple more real quick. We got Hermes, who is the messenger of the gods. He has those winged shoes that I believe the Adidas logo is based off of.
It's actually Goodyear.
And he's able to travel very quickly. He's also, interestingly enough, the god of diplomacy, thieves, and games because he loves to gamble. Now, the last two will kind of juggle back and forth depending on who you're reading about. Of the original 12, or so the one who becomes the last member of the 12 is Dionysus, who is the god of wine, the grapes, fertility, festivity, ecstasy, madness, the god of the theater. He's an interesting character. He's in terms of mythology, like a relatively young god. He is the youngest of them, but like his cult kind of popped up later in Greek mythology as well. And then the last one, this is the one I kind of think is very interesting because it kind of will go into other ones in the future, is Hestia, who is goddess of the hearth, fire, and domesticity. So, Cody, do you know what a hearth is?
It's a fire pit, yeah?
Yeah, very good. It's like a big fireplace. It's where you did the majority of your cooking. It's where you did the majority of your entertaining. And basically, to the Greek gods, hospitality, or rather to the Greek world, hospitality is one of the biggest and most important things you had for your own reputation and for your own, your sense of value. Some of the worst stories in Greek mythology are people who violate hospitality codes. And just a real quick, hospitality codes is basically if you welcomed someone into your home and you fed them and you gave them a bed, you basically were not allowed to do anything to harm them until they left your home. So Hestia, I think, is really interesting because, we have these other gods and goddesses who are the gods of war and wine and music and the storms and the skies and things like that. But Hestia is really interesting to me because I think it showcases just how much they valued your word and the word of the bringing someone into your home and sharing with them your hospitality. So I think Hestia is actually really important, and it's kind of a shame that she is often considered to be one of like the more forgettable goddesses of Greek mythology, because I think there's a lot to be said of her. It's just because there's not a lot of stories that exist of her. Most times when people talk about her, she's just kind of quiet and kind of minding her own business, and will sometimes put people back in order, but at the end of the day, she's just kind of quiet and a little uninteresting, which I think is kind of sad. But yeah, so that's a little bit of overview of the gods. And in each of them, you can see an aspect of the world that the Greeks either were trying to understand. So in the case of, things like storms or seasons or volcanoes or the seas and just how unpredictable the seas are, or something that they really wanted to showcase and value, their abilities to create art and music, their abilities to fight smart wars, things like that. And so I think that looking at the gods and what they represent kind of showcase the value set of the Greeks. Now, you might be noticing that Hades isn't counted in that group. It's because Hades is the lord of the underworld. He's actually going to get his own full episode because I think there's a lot of unpacking to do about Hades and some interesting things that I think we misinterpret about Hades. So, any questions?
Damn, that's a lot to unpack in general.
Sure. I try to
But
make it concise as much as I can.
yeah. Is there a story for why each god has like certain aspects to it, like the fact that Poseidon being more like Poseidon having or power? I don't know. Do you call it power over, or like just the god of? Because like Poseidon's the god of the water, but also horses. So
Sure.
like, does he control horses, or is he just like when things happen and they're horse related, people are just like, Poseidon, that son of a bitch. Like, is that how it works?
Yeah, and if memory serves, and this is kind of unpacking, I think there might be like a myth that the horses came from the sea. Itself.
Okay.
And so yeah, and it's one of those things too where after the whole deal, all the business with the Titans, at least according to one source I read, like Zeus basically sits everyone down and is like, all right, so we need to figure out who's in charge of what, and we need to figure out why we're doing, like, who's doing what and the things we're doing and things like that. And then sometimes too, I think it's interesting, like Greek mythology has multiple gods of the sun. So you have Apollo, and Apollo is the god of the sun, but his son is the chariot driver of the sun, and so he's also the god of the sun. So it's interesting little things like that. I don't know if there's necessarily like a strong reason. I think Zeus just kind of was like, all right, you're in charge of like this thing, and you're in charge of this thing. I think it's interesting too that Poseidon's also in charge of earthquakes. But we
weird.
more associate him with the god of the sea. So yeah, I think one of the reasons why we have quite that reputation is how he factors into the Odyssey story. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got, baby.
Yeah. So yeah. Shall we go to the
middle section?
Hey guys, welcome to the middle section. This is
welcome.
This is where we talk to you guys about our social medias and other things related to growing the podcast and stuff like that. Hey,
yeah.
Cody, I want to send you guys a funny thought I had, or I saw a funny thing online, and like I don't want to write you guys like a long old dissertation, but I wanted to show it to you. Where's a great place I can like tell you a quick little thought I had?
You can tweet us at fandomr_podcast. That's our Twitter handle.
Awesome. And I want to write you a slightly longer thing. Is there like another way I could write you things that isn't limited by 240 characters?
Of course there is. You can send us an email at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, very cool. Now, more questions for you, Cody. I would like to write to you a lengthier thing, but I don't feel necessarily comfortable sending out my email like that in a major way. Is there a way I can write to you a lengthier thing without giving you my email?
Of course there is. You can go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com, where all of our episodes are, and where all of our social media links are, and our bios with more information about us. And right at the bottom, right above all the social media links, is a little area where you can fill out like a name or an internet handle, whichever you prefer, and then a little dialogue box where you can send us whatever you would normally send in an email, and it just goes straight to our email, and you don't have to you don't have to like sign up or send any kind of special information besides that.
Very cool. Hey, Cody, I know I'm listening to the podcast right now, but I want to tell a friend about it. Where are some places that I can find the podcast to tell them, my friends, to listen to it?
Ooh, you can find us on iTunes. I mean, yeah, it was pretty rough. But to answer your question, we're on iTunes. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Google Play and Spotify. Wow. And working our way up, we're also on YouTube.
Ew.
Yeah, so right now we're on the second year of the podcast, our official season 1, if you will.
Our terrible twos.
Our terrible twos. So if you are looking for all of like the old stuff, like maybe you want to catch up, you like these episodes, but you want to get some more content, feel free to check out season 0, where it's just us trying to figure out this format because we were just a fucking mess.
That's bad. All right, let's see. Are there any other social medias that I should know about?
Well, our Twitter, but we're also on Facebook and Instagram.
Uh-huh.
And those are our other places, along with anything
Angel
that I've set up. Angel Fire. We do have a Christian singles account.
What? I was not consulted about.
Oh,
this.
well, it's just the fandom roulette as a whole has converted.
This is so awkward because I'm on farmersonly.com.
Oh shit!
What's the one for old people? There's like a dating site specifically for like 50 plus. I'm pretty sure.
I'm gettingold.com. I don't know. I'm rude. I'm sorry.
No. Don't apologize. It's just gonna haunt me forever now.
Yeah. Feel free to tweet at us the old people's dating website on Twitter.
Wait. Old people dating site. Oh shit.
That is what you want to put in your Google search history?
I mean, whatever. At this point, like, the fact that I haven't been arrested is nothing short of a miracle. But anyway.
Damn, I didn't realize my co-host was some fucking serial killer.
No! Whoa! Time out. I'm not a serial killer.
That I know of.
I just go down weird rabbit holes sometimes.
That I know of.
Yeah.
Of course you're not a serial killer, Winku. FBI.
Yes. No.
I am blinking.
No.
I'm blinking. I need help in Morse code. I'm kidding, FBI. He's totally not a serial killer. Why don't we get out of this section, huh?
Dad, you killed me. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm not a serial killer.
Welcome back. Who did you bring into the office today that's not a serial killer?
What happened in the middle section?
Did I just out you? Is this like some Dexter Morgan shit? And like
you didn't out me. Oh no, Cody.
What?
I had a big old plate of food here, but it's gone now because a little pink blob ate it. Insert Kirby sucking sound here.
Oh, okay. What's going on?
I can't replicate that sound with my.
In my youth I could, but I don't think I could do it now.
Nope, that's more of a whistle. Like Kirby's
here.
Well,
the actual sucking noises, yeah, it's definitely some kind of weird whistle noise.
Yeah, does Kirby have a voice?
Yeah, if you taunt in Smash, he'll be like, "Hi."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't like talk, he doesn't have like a voice, but like in the animated television show, he would like make noises and things.
Oh, Dunk. Oh shit.
Yeah, that's a callback to a show that didn't exist for very long.
Oh no, Cody, this is embarrassing.
Huh?
I had my good friend Waddle Dee up here, and Kirby just ate him.
Oh no, you brought a whole cast? Well, I hope you didn't pay him yet.
Pay who? What? Kirby?
Well, no, Waddle Dee.
No. Oh, no. Waddle Dee's my friend. Like we were just
Oh,
chilling.
Okay. There wasn't like a payment agreement to come on the show. You guys were just buds.
Oh,
well, that's unfortunate.
Shit, Cody. Oh, someone else just walked into the room. It's really good that none of these characters really make identifiable sounds, so I don't have to like do anything.
It's true. It's also very convenient that quote unquote Kirby showed up to kill one of your quote unquote friends.
Whoa! No. God damn it! It's King DDD. He's here too. He's got a big hammer. Womp womp womp. Yep, that's the sound he makes. He's a big
and
old
then
penguin
Kirby,
man.
and then quote unquote Kirby, quote unquote, killed him, huh?
Well, then now he has his power, so he has like a cute little hammer in his hand.
Sure, yeah. Or
And he has like what looks like King Dedede's like scalp on his head. That's kind of weird.
is that like your murder name? Is that why you chose this?
I'm quitting the podcast. What if my audio just dropped
Fucking
out here?
Just cut and I oh my
just
god.
like a hard cut and like that's it and like
And then like next week I show up in the missing papers.
oh my god.
Because there's a newspaper specifically for that, I guess.
Stop!
I don't know.
Stop it! I'm not a
Sorry.
serial killer.
I never said you were, Winku.
You. All right.
Anyways, guys, I've ruined the bit. I've called my co-host a serial killer. We're talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield today.
It's called Our Time.
What?
That was the old people dating website. It's called Our Time.
Nice. Love it. It's a good save. So anyways, I'm here to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield because that game just came out.
Dude.
And if you've been on the internet at all for the past 6 months, people have had some words about Pokemon Sword and Shield.
People having opinions on the internet?
I know, it's hard to believe, but hear me out.
So.
There are a lot of people on the internet who have opinions about things, and they want you to know. And if you don't agree with them, you can go die in a fire.
Okay.
That's basically how the internet works.
Who's
So,
a serial killer now, Cody?
the internet? That's probably true.
That's probably accurate, yeah. Okay. So, carry on, Cody.
So, I picked up a copy of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm playing through Sword. My wife is playing through Shield. And so I've been playing through it for not super long. I was prepping for Death Stranding, so I got a lot more time into that. But I know what's going on with what's going on the internet about Pokemon and why people are thoroughly upset with the game thus far. And I'm not here to... It's tough, right? Because, like, on one hand, I totally understand why people are upset.
Sure.
Basically, the long and short of it is that one of the biggest things that Pokemon Sword and Shield is doing is not including the entire roster of Pokemon from all of the other games, which has been a staple.
Your childhood.
Yeah, so that basically... That has been a staple to the Pokemon franchise since its beginning, is that all of, like, eventually in the game, you will have access to collect and reacquire all of the Pokemon thus far via trading or whatever, like, apps or games that they have. But this one decided to not do that. And this is the first time that the game went to a console, although the console is kind of like a handheld console, like, merge.
Yeah,
So,
can I ask a quick question? Is that why?
is that why they did that? Or is that why...
Like, yeah, is it just because of the fact that it went to a console? Like, I'm sorry, this is probably a very dumb question.
You know, I don't know. So the official statement from Game Freak, the company that made Pokemon, is that they cut the decks they cut having all of the Pokemon because it was becoming too complicated to include them all.
Sure, I feel that.
Legitimately makes sense, but people are finding as they are exploring the game, and some people are, like, hacking the game and, like, finding out, like, that they're reusing old sprites, and there seems to be a bit of either misinformation or downright lying coming from Game Freak, and I'm not I don't know enough about it to be like, I think they're lying and I think they're a piece of shit. But there's definitely...
First, folks, Cody thinks that Game Freaks is lying and also pieces of shit.
No, don't. No, there can only be one serial killer here, all right?
Internet, cut out Internet, cut out that part specifically
God
and send it to
damn
Game Freak.
No,
Tweet at Game Freak day and night. This is what Cody of Phantom Roulette thinks of your game. He thinks that you're the freaks. Anyway,
oh, you got me. So the thing about Pokemon Sword and Shield is a lot of people are upset because now there is a very finite list of Pokemon. And if you had a favorite Pokemon that didn't make it on that list, it's like, well, sorry, you don't get to enjoy that Pokemon in this game.
sure.
Which is a super bummer. I know some people are, like me included, were really sad that some Pokemon didn't make it. Like,
Sure.
Garchomp was like a really cool, like, ground dragon. He was like a really strong competitive Pokemon, but like, he just looked really rad, and I loved the idea of a land shark. He
Mhm.
didn't make the cut. Metagross didn't make the cut, which is like one of my favorite, like later gen Pokemon.
Did Pseudo
quote,
Wudo make
unquote.
the cut?
Sudowoodo, I believe, made the cut because Bonsly's in the game. I haven't seen Sudowoodo yet, but
It's good. I was scared.
so I don't know how to feel about the game so far. Like, it feels like a Pokemon game. If you've played Pokemon, it is the same game. We've been playing the same game for a while now.
Heck yeah.
They've added some new stuff. They basically made they call it the Wild Area, which is this big area filled with Pokemon that are on screen. They're all running around, and it's kind of like, if you've played Pokemon Go, all the Pokemon that you will encounter are on screen. There's these little areas that will like glow, and they will do, and there's this new event called Dynamax Rating. And basically, it's a 4-on-1 tag team event where you fight like this giant Pokemon, like a Godzilla-sized Pokemon, and they're Dynamax, which is like the new mechanic, which is they get to be a really big, giant Pokemon, like, easily 10, 15 times the size of a normal Pokemon, and they get special moves. It's very reminiscent of, it's kind of like a mix between Mega Evolutions and the Z moves from Sun and Moon, where it's kind of like an evolution, although for the most part it is literally just making them bigger, and they get access to special moves that only exist in this new form. I haven't used it in a battle yet, so I don't know how long it lasts, but from what I hear, it's not super long. But basically that's like the new mechanic, is like, you basically get a super move and buffed HP to use in a battle, and you get to use it once.
Okay.
And so there's these Dynamax raids where you'll fight wild Pokemon with up to 4 people. And if you have the Nintendo Switch's online functionality, you can actually play with other people, and all of you will hunt down this Dynamax Pokemon together, which is kind of cool. It's like, it's just different. And if you beat or capture the Pokemon, which is fairly easy at the early levels, I guess the later levels, it becomes a little more challenging with like harder mechanics and things like that. But you will get items, and one of the items is like experience level candy, which is basically like having rare candies like pretty much at any point. So you grind these for technical moves, which are basically different moves for different Pokemon. You get these candies, which increase your experience. You get berries, which have various properties. Like, you can feed your Pokemon berries, and they'll do various things, which are kind of cool. One of the key features that I like is they made the competitive scene easier to get into. Okay. Without getting into it, because we have a whole episode on Pokemon and why it's wild and crazy, and why there's this whole, it's got an easy buy-in, but like it's got a very high learning curve if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of it. They made that high-end gameplay easier to acquire with the Pokemon that you already have, which, in my opinion, is like the thing that Pokemon needed the most, because the competitive scene was just kind of rampant with people like hacking Pokemon, because like, I don't want to spend 7,000 years making spreadsheets and breeding Pokemon in order to get the perfect one. Like, now that's not a thing anymore. Like, you can basically unless you're breeding moves, you don't even have to breed Pokemon anymore. You can just use items that you acquire through the endgame content, which is like this battle tower, and it's basically a harder version of the battles that you did already. So, so far, I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's a fairly easy game. Pokemon isn't really notorious for its hard, like, single player. It's usually like the end game stuff and like playing with other people online. That's kind of the challenge. But, it's super fun. I'm enjoying it. It kind of sucks that they like cut out some Pokemon, and I'm hoping that in the future it's more of we cut them so that we could balance the game better by, seeing problematic Pokemon and like, or problematic moves and like changing them. But I don't know. I understand why a lot of people are upset because the Pokemon Switch game got a price upgrade. Since it's no longer a Game Boy game. Game Boy games are usually the halfway mark of a AAA title video game. Okay. And so for the first time, Pokemon is not only $60, but also has less Pokemon. There were a lot of excuses as to why they didn't add those Pokemon, and it's been kind of a shit show for Game Freak. I'm still on the fence how I feel about it. I mean, I bought the game, so obviously I'm, I guess I'm unfortunately on Team Game Freak, because people, that's how you vote in capitalist society, is with your money.
It's true.
And I've already bought it, but I've been having fun. So like this, I know it sucks, but the way I'm seeing it right now is it's giving me the opportunity to try to catch my own Pokemon and trying to create my new Pokedex.
Uh-huh.
Whereas before, like, I already had a lot of Pokemon, and I was, like, for a long time ago, when I was really into Pokemon, I was working on a full, complete Pokedex. Mm-hmm. And sure, it sucks that progress is lost, but I had fun while I was doing it. So, like, and I'm still having fun now. So I don't know. I guess to me, it's one of those things where, like, if you were super into Pokemon and that bothers you, well, that really sucks. And I'm sorry that you lost your super awesome fighting team. And, if you don't want to buy it, I don't blame you. But at the same time, for people who are, I guess, quote unquote casual or more casual about it, I think you're still going to experience a fun game. So it's kind of a toss-up. I'm still on the fence as to how I feel about this, because I don't know everything. And I don't like to make, like, hard-cut opinions about things unless I know, like, all of the factors that are going into it.
Yeah, I respect that, for sure.
So do you have any questions, or...
I mean, okay, hey, this is actually a pretty big one.
Yeah.
So this is the first title that has really made me want to buy a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think it's worth taking the shot and going for it?
I think that the Switch already has so many good titles that if this is your first game, cool, you're going to fucking love it. But you're not going to run into a problem where this is the only game you'll buy.
Sure. Because
I think, in my personal opinion, like, there's Mario Odyssey. It's a fucking amazing platformer. You've got Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is by far one of my favorite Zelda games ever. Mm-hmm. You got Mario Kart. You got Animal Crossing coming out next year, which, like, if you want, like, a solid, like, just kind of slow pace, like, chill game, like, it's going to be perfect. Like, there's just so many good games. Fire Emblem's another good one if you're into tactical RPGs.
Yeah.
I'll probably be talking about that one in a later episode. I mean, yeah, I think now more than ever, even before Pokemon, the Switch is a good product, and you will find a lot of good games. And I don't think they're wavering either. Like, I think there's more, because, like, they're already already working on a sequel for the Breath of the Wild game, which is going to be cool. We've got games coming out next year. There's already like Fire Emblem is like a ridiculous amount of time. Like, you could spend hundreds of hours in that game. Like, I think it's worth a buy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No. That's a It's something I'm seriously considering and thinking about. So
Yeah, and if you were a fan of Pokemon from when you were a kid, and you don't mind that some Pokemon aren't there, I think this game's gonna scratch an itch that
cool.
I find very hard to find an alternative for.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Thank you. That's good advice.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if I decide to go for it right away or not. I'm
Hell
thinking maybe
yeah.
trying to take advantage of like Black Friday deals. But,
Yes.
But anyway, on to the last.
Well, first we got to do you and a group of adventurers.
Oh, I know. So, do you want to remind us what the last one was that I still have no idea about?
Yes, I will. Okay, here we go.
Let's do it.
You and a group of adventurers must do whatever they can to survive on a vessel while a dangerous monster hunts your party down one by one.
See, it's the one by one that screws me up.
So,
take a guess.
Yes, absolutely.
Is it Alien?
Yes, you got it.
Is it? Okay.
It's Alien.
For some reason, I was stuck on Jaws, and I was like, it's not one by one, though. Like, Jaws just attacks them. And for some reason, the terminology of vessel was fucking me up because I was just stuck on the ocean.
Right.
Like,
and you know what?
I
did that. Yeah, I did that on purpose because I knew if I would have said like a ship or a spaceship, it would have been way too easy. But yeah, no, it was Alien. I couldn't figure out how I wanted to handle the party bit, but I think it still worked.
No, it's fair. Like the more I think about it, it's like it's difficult, especially because it's like they're like most things don't involve magic. And like,
that's true. Yeah. So like a lot of the D&D classes that are heavily based on magic, like I totally get.
So it's like
why it's complicated.
It's fighter and fighter and fighter and fighter, and it's like, okay, that's exciting, I guess. It's like you might get like a fighter barbarian or like a fighter rogue or whatever, but like, yeah, there's not a lot of magic in most things. Like, okay,
yeah, I get that.
I have one for you.
Yes, I'm excited. Tell me.
Okay, you and a party of adventurers will feel pride as you reclaim your homeland from your scheming family member. It is a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a party consists of, or is it mostly NPCs?
It's a small party. I would say that you have I would say like a pretty straight up and down fighter, a person who could probably be identified as a barbarian.
Okay.
Another straight up and down fighter, and then maybe like a semi bard, I guess a bard without magic, but like not necessarily a frontline fighter, but like an important support character.
Okay.
And it is.
I have an idea, but
there's also a big hint in the clue. So, do you want one more time?
Yeah, one more time for the audience and myself.
You and a party of adventurers will feel pride when you reclaim your home from your scheming family member.
Ooh, I just like totally changed my mind.
Okay.
I think I know what it is.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that hint. I know you put a little extra sauce on it this time.
I did put a little sauce on it. So anyway,
yeah,
if you have
I like it.
A guess for what you and a party of adventure is, please tweet at us hashtag fandom R party. I think that's what we've been using, right?
I think it's Fandom R Adventures.
Okay, same. Fandom R Adventures.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, that's awesome. I'll think on it. I have two in my head, but sure. I think that clue put me in the right direction.
Sure. I did put a little bit of stank on it, I think. In a good way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
D&D?
Yes, the
Teach
D&D section. One. Yes, so this season I am teaching Joe and the audience.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Joe.
How to be a game master or dungeon master, and our first episode went over pretty much everything you need to start.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to the last episode, you should check it out if this section interests you.
Yeah, what are you doing with your life?
Anyways, not important.
Listen to the last episode.
Yeah, you should definitely go listen to the last episode because because this episode kind of gets deeper into those topics. So you have a basic idea of what it means to be a game master. Now I'm going to get a little deep on some of the core topics and then go over some tricks that I learned along the way. So this episode is going to be on rules.
Oh, okay.
Because you are going to be the referee of the game.
Okay.
So my rule philosophy kind of stems from, and maybe it's partly due to the career path that I chose of being an artist.
Sure.
And as in art, the rules are meant to be understood, and once they are understood, they are meant to be broken.
Hell yeah.
At first, this wasn't the case for me. When I started to DM, I used to think that, hashtag rules are there for a reason. Don't break them, blah, blah, blah. But as I played and as I kind of grew to understand the game that I was playing in, which was 5e, I learned that there are some things that I care for and some things that I don't. So I changed them as needed. So first, understanding the rules. First part of the sentence, or the first part of the phrase. And when I say this, I don't mean memorize all the rules. You can always reference a book if you've forgotten a rule or something's unclear. I don't mean memorizing all the rules. That takes forever, and nobody's got time for that. We're all busy. Unless you got a lot of time and that's what you want to do, feel free to be the person that you want to be, but I don't got time for that. However, I do mean understand the purpose of the game.
Okay.
This becomes important. Every tabletop RPG that I've ever played has kind of a mission statement or a purpose at the beginning of the book, and it usually tells you what kind of game you're playing. And so for Dungeons and Dragons, that is a heroic fantasy where the players are playing heroes and they go and do heroic things and, they're the badasses of the story. So, that being said, the rules should reflect that.
Okay.
And so you'll see it in almost every tabletop RPG. There's a mission statement or something that the game developers want to give you this sense of what the game is, and then the rules should reflect that. And that's important because once you've read the book, you've understood the mechanics, you'll start to understand why you roll the dice or you flip cards or you pull pieces from a Jenga tower.
Mm-hmm.
You understand how to resolve those die rolls because it's a heroic fantasy. Your heroes, the die rolls should be important.
Uh-huh.
They should be, unless they fail, in most cases, it should be heroic to some degree. And this is kind of a side, but this is still kind of important. You should know how to build the characters in the game because in most cases, you're going to teach others how to do that.
Uh-huh.
That's a little side note, but
yeah.
And the reason you understand why the rules exist is because then the game becomes yours. And when you understand how the game works, then you understand what you want out of the game. And sometimes they don't always align. Sometimes it's kind of like it's like fitting something perfectly. It's not always going to be perfect. And that's okay.
Uh-huh.
You can kind of cut out some of the little corners or the little areas that you don't like so that it fits to what your game needs to be.
Sure.
And in my personal experience, sometimes the rules get in the way of having fun or, the people who are playing's idea of what is fun. And if that is the case, you should change it with kind of the following caveats. You should only change the rules if everyone's okay with it. Obviously ask your fellow friends at the table, hey, I'm thinking about taking out this rule.
Sure.
Is that okay? I do this with you guys all the time, especially if I'm introducing a new mechanic or anything. I'll let you guys know, and then I usually ask hey, did you guys like that? Did you not?
Sure.
What were your thoughts? And that's what you should do with implementing new rules or removing rules that you don't like.
Like, can
This
I
is
give
where,
a
like,
quick example real quick?
yeah.
Like, we've basically done away with the traditional initiative system.
Yep.
So, like, you talked it through with us the entire way. You didn't just show up one day and like, this is what we're doing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, and this next part is like, this is how house rules get made, and they're super common. And I have made and edited and removed so many house rules for D&D that I have a list of house rules that I follow, so that anyone who's new, I can be like, all right, D&D 5e is a little weird. Here are the things that I've changed about it. You know, go and look at it. And, you know, I think this is super important to the concept of being the rule lawyer and like being the referee of the game, is like each table is going to be different, you know, and your sense of fun and like your party, your other players' sense of fun, it's going to be different. Like for us at our D&D table, we never liked ammunition. Like the idea of like, oh, I shoot arrows and then I have to collect them and I have to keep subtracting and remembering those. Like that got boring. So 9 times out of 10, it's kind of like, all right, we'll just, we'll do away with it and, you know, we'll figure out a new system for it. Things like that. And a lot of books will tell you this, whether it's at the beginning, the end, wherever, but it bears repeating. Ultimately, this is your game.
Yeah.
And you need to use it how you need it. If you caught what I threw there.
Yeah.
If I put some stank on it. But yeah, this is kind of a long-about way of saying, like, rules help facilitate the game that the developers want you to experience. And understanding those rules and why they put them there will help you find where you can bend them so that the game fits to what you want.
Sure.
Because that's not to say remove every single rule, because then it just becomes chaos, and if it's just chaos, then why are you using a book in the first place? You might as well just be storytelling with your friends at, like, a bar or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
Like the dice are there to facilitate the mechanics of being, you know, at least in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, they're there to facilitate heroism and being a epic hero.
Yeah.
Or, you know, at least in base terms. Now, the game we're playing is kind of heroic. You've had some heroic moments where you've used the environment to your will in our current, like, kind of murder mystery kind of X-Files style campaign. Like, you've used it before, but it's not quite the, you know, knights in shining armor that we've done in the past.
It's not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and so there will be heroic moments, but I've tinkered and played with the game enough where I still like the base system and I like the classes and like the rules that are implemented, but I needed to tweak some of them to kind of fit the vibe that I'm going for.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of this episode on rules, is like, you should not memorize the rules, but understand them, because once you understand them, then you know why some rules are meant to be broken, some need to change, you know, it's, you know.
Yeah.
In the end, it's your game. Make it the way you want. Don't get stuck playing a game that you don't want to play. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the big part, or big episode 2, is just knowing the rules and knowing when you should break them, because you want the game to be fun, not what the game developers think is fun, because everyone's kind of got a subjective attitude on it.
Sure. Once again, not that hard.
No, and for you and the audience, you will find that a lot of these things, they're not going to be hard. They're not going to be as intimidating as you think. They're actually fairly easy. It's just, it's all packed in this, like, kind of scary looking box, you know? Sure. It's kind of like, when you're on the outside looking in, it's like, oh, that's terrifying. I would never want to be the dungeon master for this, that, and the other thing. And I'm here to tell you, no. You can be a dungeon master or a game master or whatever kind of master you want to be.
Yeah.
Master of the universe? Easy. Maybe. You got it.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Shall we wrap her up?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Fan Roulette. please go back to our mail section and find out information about our social media. We want to thank you all so much for listening. Big thanks to Cody's wife for handling our social medias. We appreciate you so much for doing that for us. And yeah, tell a friend, go back to the middle section. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, give us a shout out if you like what we're doing. And I'm signing off for Frame Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.